Okay, so this is our lesson on China. This is everything we're doing this week, all the way up until Wednesday and Thursday block day. We're talking about geography of early China, and our two essential questions are simply these. Essential question 1, what are the positive and negative aspects of China's geography? And question 2, where and why did China's first civilizations form? Now the first thing we do is we're going to review these true-false statements together. So if you want to at home, get a piece of paper and number your piece of paper 1 to 12, and I'll show you why here in just a second. So I'm going to put a 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So pause the tape and number your notebook paper 1 to 12. Now look at all the 12 statements and put your answers on your notebook paper, either T or F. Do that now. Alright, let's go over these together and you can see whether you got them right or not. Number 1, the climate in China is the same all over. Well, China is so large that that can't possibly be true. China is over 4 million square miles big, as large as the United States, so that statement has to be false. It's too big to have the same climate. Number 2, the Yellow River never floods. Well, if the Yellow River never flooded, then there would be no silt. If there was no silt, there'd be no fertile soil for the hunters and gatherers to settle in. So that has to be false. Of course the Yellow River floods. There's 1 and 2. Number 3, true or false? The plateau of Tibet is high and rugged. Well, all plateaus are high, and the plateau of Tibet is exceptionally rugged. So that's a true statement. Number 4, the monsoon season in China is very dry. Well, monsoons in China, monsoon winds bring a lot of rain in China, so that statement is false. Number 5, monsoons bring a lot of rain each year. Well, if you just heard what I said, you would know that number 5 then is true. Number 6, China's rivers are very short. Well, rivers technically usually aren't very short at all, otherwise we call them streams. So that's going to be false. 7, plateau of Tibet is low and flat. Well, you should know now that the plateau of Tibet is high and rugged, which makes number 7 false. 8, China has many different landforms. There again, it's so big it has to have many different landforms. True. 9, China has many different climates. Again, China is so large that it couldn't possibly have the same climate all over the place, so that's a true statement. Number 10, the Yellow River is nearly 3,000 miles long. That is also a true statement. Number 11, the Gobi is a vast desert. That is a true statement. As a matter of fact, the Gobi is one of the highest and coldest deserts in the world. A desert does not have to be hot. What makes a desert is not its temperature, but its precipitation. And deserts get no precipitation, or rarely. And last one, number 12, the Gobi is China's longest river. We just said it's a vast desert, so that makes number 12 false. So there you have it. Check your answers. How'd you do? If you didn't do well, try them over again. I'll reset the screen. You can pause the screen, renumber your paper 1 to 12 again, and try these. Although I'm not going to go back over them with you. You have to bring that to school and review it with me in class. Okay, let's go over our vocabulary. If you want to pause the tape after I pull out each definition, you can, and then figure out where the definition goes, and then play the tape, and you'll see if you were right. Here we go. Longest river in Asia. Changjiang. A hard gemstone. Pause. Jade. Mountain range that separates northern China from southern China. Pause. Qinling Shanди. To be different or differ. Pause. Vary. V-A-R-Y. That's the same root we get the word variable from. Variation, variety. There were a variety of foods at the Thanksgiving dinner. That means there was many different foods. Okay? Next one out. High rugged plateau, Himalayas along the south. Pause. Plateau of Tibet. Harsh desert separating China from the north. Pause. Gobi. Yellow River, China's sorrow. Pause. Huanghe. And the last one. What's an oracle? Do you know? Think about it for a second. Okay, here we go. An oracle is a prediction. Okay? In class, we did them all in blue. Here's a map of China right here. Now, I want to point a couple of things out to you. First of all, here's India down here. Okay, behind the key. Now I want to notice, even though there was lots of civilizations in India, the Himalaya mountains created a huge barrier. And so nobody hardly ever went into China. Chinese civilization centered along these rivers over here. This is where the main part of Chinese civilization was located, in the northern China plain. So you see, China was separated by the Gobi Desert here, by these mountains and deserts here, and by these mountains here. So China was a very isolated country, civilization. Did you hear about the party at the Chinese zoo? Pause. Pause, pause. Party, Chinese zoo. It was pandemonium. Get it? Oh. Okay. The next thing we did in class is we did a chart like this, and everybody got a chart like this, but if you don't have one and you want to make one at home, it looks like that. And pause the tape right there, take a piece of notebook paper and set it up just like that one. Okay? And once you have that set up, you're going to need a textbook to pages 160 and 161. And that looks like this. Here's our textbook right here. And we're going to be on page 160, Geography and Early China. We are looking for the positive and negative effects or impacts of China's geography. So let's start reading at a vast and varied land. China covers an area of nearly 4 million square miles, about the size of the United States. One of the physical barriers that separates China from its neighbors is a harsh desert, the Gobi. See that sentence right there? Okay? That is an effect of their landforms, of the desert. The desert is a physical barrier separating China from its neighbors. Now, do you think that's a positive or a negative? That is a positive aspect of deserts, okay? Because they make a physical barrier against, and I know it said neighbors, but back then neighbors were usually your enemies, so we're going to put against invasion. So the deserts protected the Chinese from being invaded by their neighbors. All right, let's go back to the book and keep reading. It spreads over much of China's north. East of the Gobi are low-lying plains. Oh, now we're going to talk about plains. Now, low-lying, it does not tell us anything positive or negative about plains. It just says they're low-lying. These plains, which cover most of eastern China, here it is, form one of the world's largest farming regions. Now, that's a positive impact of having plains in the country. So we're going to go back to our chart. We're going to scroll down to plains, and we're going to put in here, great for what? farming. See, the effect of plains is that they have a lot of farming. And what I want you to do is to go back through and finish reading through pages 160 to 161 and try to find the positive and negative effects of the different geographic features in China. You've got deserts, mountains, and rivers. And they may not go in order, so read through both pages and put what you think are the positive and negative effects in our chart. Now, I'm going to, in a second, show you a key that you can compare your notes to. So I'm going to count down to 5, and then I'm going to switch screens. So take a moment, pause the tape, read the book, fill that in, and in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'll show you the key. And this is what we have. Okay? You can just ignore this terraced fields business down here. There you go. Deserts, plains, mountains, and rivers. And once you're finished with that, on the block day, the second thing we're going to work on block day is this chart here. This is a questioning chart. Now, I'm going to attach one to my website so that you can download it if you need it. This is what it'll look like. And this is how we fill this out. Every section has got, every question has got the heading. And the question is made from the heading in the book. For example, in our book, the first heading was a vast and varied land, right here in red, a vast and varied land. Okay? Our first question set then is, how big, vast, and how varied different is China's land? Now if you read through the vast and varied land section, you can answer that. And there's many ways that you can answer that. Okay? The land was so big that they had many different landforms. They had many different climates. There was many rivers. There were mountain ranges. There's many ways you can answer that. However you choose to answer, I'll give you a second here, pause the tape, and fill in an answer on your paper. Well, and I'll fill one in too. Go ahead and pause. Okay, so here's how I would answer that. How big and how varied is China's land? China is over 4 million square miles. They have deserts, mountains, rivers, plains, and several different climates. Now that's only one way you can answer that question. There's more than one way to answer that question. Anything you put in there is probably okay as long as you're explaining that China's land is really big and has different landforms. That you're answering how big and how varied is China's land. Now the follow-up question is yours. You come up with a question. The only requirement is that that question has to be answerable from the textbook. So now I'm reading through here and I want a follow-up question. Well, I've already said that China's got over 4 million square miles. They've got deserts, mountains, rivers, and plains and different climates. As a follow-up question, I might ask, how tall, I might zero in right here. Look here, I might zero in with here, more than 26,000 feet. How tall are the mountains south of the plateau of Tibet? So that's my follow-up question. How tall are the mountains south of the plateau of Tibet? My answer, over 26,000 feet. When we're finished with that, we go to the next section. Now notice the question is, why are rivers important to China? What was my heading? Well, my heading was simply, oops, now everything's yellow, yay. Sorry about that. My heading, right down here, is the rivers of China. So what I have done is, rather than just make a simple question of what are the rivers in China, I made a question that says, why are the rivers of China important? And you can answer that by reading, when you read those 3-4 paragraphs about China, China's rivers, see 3 short paragraphs, 1, 2, and 3, you'll be able to answer why they're so important. Then you make up a follow-up question. Remember, the follow-up question must be answerable from the text. And then you go on, and we're going to work through how did farming develop in China? That's the next section. 4, what were the early settlements like in China? 5, what happened during the Shah dynasty? And 6, what happened during the Shang dynasty? All of those are answerable here in the textbook. Notice your headings. How did civilization begin in China? What were the early settlements like? What happened during the Shah dynasty? What happened during the Shang dynasty? Okay, and that's what we'll be doing on the block day. So, there you go. You get some of that work if you're absent especially, and you can make that up and be ready for Friday's quiz. Thank you very much.